I was just talking to a friend of mine who is currently in the market to buy a house, and I felt like it was only right to share what we just went through like 2 years ago when we bought this one. It's so much to manage, and to be honest, I'm not sure I still fully understand everything we did and everyone who was involved. There were so many people, and the process itself is a lot. It's financial and emotional. And coming to terms with how much you want to spend and should spend isn't easy. But then, walking into a house and being able to picture yourself in it with friends and family, it's so exciting. But there's a lot to know. Welcome to Merging into Life, where we navigate life's milestones one episode at a time. Brought to you by AAA Northeast. I'm your host, Amanda Green. Today, we're going to delve into the ins and outs of buying your first home. Whether it's a condo, single-family house, or an apartment, there are some basic things to know when you make what is probably the biggest purchase of your life. So join me as we explore the wild world of home ownership, from the financial side to picking out the right house for you, plus a guide to all the people you'll need along the way. To walk us through what you need to do and in what order, we've got Monica Soyemi with us. She's a residential real estate agent based in New York City, as well as a YouTube content creator. But first, let's talk to Stephen Vieira, Director of Mortgage Sales and Operations at AAA Northeast. All right, Stephen, this is a big one. There's so much that goes into buying your first home, and I'm sure we're going to have lots to talk about. But first things first, where do we even start? What's the first step?
Like we like to say here, it takes a small village to bring you through the process. Typically, a lot of people start with the real estate agent, but what my recommendation would be is really to start on the lending side first and maybe even look personally at your own monthly budget. So what fits your monthly budget before you even approach the lender and ask them what you think the bank will qualify you for. What I've found throughout my career is that the bank usually can qualify someone for more than what they are comfortable with paying. How is your credit score? And do you know the ranges that it should be?
Head to the show notes for more information, including what you need to know about credit scores.
That's something that just recently in the last few years has changed dramatically. If I go back 5, even 10 years, a good credit score was usually over 700. Now in modern day, it's really closer to 800. I like to say start with a monthly budget. Then approach the lender, try to get a pre-qualification done where you'll know where you're comfortable and where the bank is comfortable lending you the money. From there, selecting a good real estate agent, looking at an insurance agent as well as you get closer to the process, finding a good company that will stand behind you, that'll protect the home.
Any other professionals will meet along the way of the home buying process?
Well, there's always the closing agent, so there'll be an attorney involved when you show up to closing. Normally, that's someone that the lender will select, but in certain states, you have the right to select an attorney to represent your interests because typically that attorney will represent the lender's interests. Even though your interests and the lender interests often coincide, you both want to have clear title to a home, you both want to have the process go smoothly, and you want everything that you're signing that day to be explained to you. So a good attorney is someone that will make the process much easier for you in the long run. There's also different levels at the lender. So there's the processor, there's the underwriter, and knowing what each one does is going to be important because a processor is there to collect your documents. They're there to help you with the process to make the loan package look the best that it can be before it's delivered to the underwriter. The underwriter is somebody that normally you don't talk to. They are working behind the scenes, and what you're doing is you're trying to present the best case possible for your financial situation in order to get approved for the loan. So it's very important that you work with both the processor and the loan officer in that transaction to get that financial picture polished.
There's a lot of people involved in the process of buying a house, but all of these other people along the way, are these people that your lender and your real estate agent will introduce you to for the most part, or are we having to go out and seek these 10 plus people on our own individually?
Well, rely on your loan officer and a good real estate agent to point you in the right direction to set a lot of these services up. As far as the lender is concerned, selecting a lender is just as important. You want to make sure that you're going with somebody you trust. Here at AAA, we act as a broker in the transaction, so we work with many different lenders, and that could be a huge advantage where the loan officer will know the different programs, whether it be first-time homebuyers, FHA program, or possibly a Veterans Administration loan for people that have been in the military and have received their accreditation to do a VA loan. That's a very unique program where you could put no money into the transaction. And today that's becoming extremely important for a lot of first-time homebuyers that are seeing these home prices rise and they're not able to come up with the down payments that they had in the past. So you could be a first-time home buyer and maybe a first-time home buying program is not right for you because you've gone ahead and you've saved a little bit more than what typically you see in those programs. So a first-time home buyer program is typically 3.5 or 3% down or even less in some cases. But if you've saved more than that, you may get into what's called just conventional financing, which has better rates and terms sometimes. So it's very individualized on the types of programs that you'd be looking at. But in general, you'd be looking at conventional financing. So looking at different programs and products, I think, is one of the areas where your loan officer, if they're working for a broker and can look at different lenders for you and point you in the right direction, that's going to be very important.
I have seen on Instagram like a million times, like people joking about how if you're in the process of buying a home, you definitely should not be making any big expenses throughout the process, right? Like wait to get a new car, wait to take out a new credit card. Like when you're in this process of buying a home, don't do anything crazy with your finances.
However, life gets in the way sometimes. So if your car dies and you need a new one, and that's your only source to get to work, which is, producing income, which makes the loan happen, I would put a caveat to that is try not to make any big purchases. Make sure that if you're going to do something big, just make sure you consult your loan officer before you do it.
It always comes right back to the budget, which is, a necessary thing, but we have to talk costs. And through the home buying process, there are a lot of expenses that, having never done it before, can be surprising, right? You don't know what you don't know. And so there are a lot of costs along the way. So I would love it if you could help break down those costs. For example, how do you determine how much you should spend on a down payment?
Well, that's a great question. And a lot of people ask me that. And my answer is pretty much always the same. If you can save 20%, save 20%, because that's going to give you the best products available. It's going to avoid something called private mortgage insurance, which is insurance for the lender against you defaulting on the loan. So it's insurance that really doesn't help you at all, other than the fact that it'll allow you to put a smaller down payment down than 20%. Now, most people don't have 20% nowadays, so that it's understandable, but it does go in increments. So if you can put a 10% down, if you can put a 15% down, a 5% down versus a 3%, the bigger the down payment, the better it is. And what you're saying brings up a good point. At this stage, you've kind of worked on your monthly budget and you've figured out how much I can afford each month. You should really start to look at having a budget for the purchase of this home, because you're going to have the down payment, then you're going to have the traditional closing costs. So you're going to pay for that attorney, the credit check, the title insurance, the recording in the town hall. There's a myriad of costs that go with buying a house other than the down payment. So you're going to need to save for both of those buckets right now. And then you're also going to have those settling in costs and those kind of ongoing costs that now maybe you need to buy a lawnmower for the new home. You're going to need to look at home insurance and other ongoing costs that you'll see in the future. Taxes are a big item as well. So you want to make sure that you're not only doing your monthly budget, but you're also doing a budget just for the purchase of this home to make sure that you have enough saved for these costs and then kind of a cushion after the fact. Because what inevitably happens is you fall in love with that house and you go ahead and you purchase it and you move in. And then, that first day you find something that needs fixing, or, that shag carpet from the 70s that you don't want to see anymore. You want to take that out. So you want to have kind of a cushion after all of these other costs are paid. So that makes the first year in your home enjoyable.
Absolutely. You want to be able to make that first house, apartment, condo, or whatever you're buying into a home. Thanks for that great financial advice, Stephen. He'll be back later. Now, let's get into the most important points in picking out the best home for you.
Hey everyone, my name is Monica Soyemi. I'm a realtor, real estate investor, homeowner here in New York, and I am really excited to be here today.
How did you get into real estate?
It was such a funny journey, actually. So before real estate, I was a professional opera singer. So I traveled the world singing. And when COVID happened, I realized I wasn't able to sing anymore. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't travel and sing. What am I going to do? So I started researching ways to create income that wasn't necessarily connected to a job, found real estate. So I bought my first property and then I said, hey, I really like this. My agent was super helpful. And I said, hey, maybe I should become an agent. And I guess the rest is history.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Did you just say you were an opera singer?
Literally opera.
How about
Yes.
I ask you a question and you answer it in song?
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, I love this.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, great. Let's see. Tell me a little bit about you and what you like to do for fun.
I love to travel 30 countries.
Monica! That's you are amazing.
Thanks. Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
I couldn't have an opera singer on the show without at least a short song. But let's get down to the business of choosing your first home. Paying for it is one thing, but committing to a home can be so incredibly nerve-wracking. So let's get some inside tips. We hear a lot that first-time home buyers often have to make compromises. You're not going to get everything you want in your first home. You know, like you can dream really big, but is this something you find to be true? And if so, how do you manage expectation?
I definitely find that to be true. Even today, I'm showing a client a home upstate, and the home isn't exactly perfect, but it has majority of what she wants. I say it's kind of like dating. You know, the home, as long as it's got 70 to 80% of what you need, we can work on the rest. So in this case, it's got the school district she wants. It's got the style of home that she wants. It's got the space that she wants. You know, the bathroom may need some updating. The kitchens may need some updating. And those are all things that you can address over time. You know, those major things like how far it is from work is something that may not be compromisable. Something like the school districts for your family. Something like the cost of living, the neighborhood, the area may not be something you can compromise on. But painting, we can change the color of the cabinets.
It's always so funny when you're watching those home buying shows and the couple comes in and there's this beautiful home that meets all of their expectations. And then they come into like a bathroom that's pink and they're like, no, the bathroom's pink. No way.
Yes.
You can paint the bathroom.
Exactly, 100%. And I love to remind my clients this. Sometimes even the exterior of the house is a weird, wonky pink color, but you can even paint the exterior of the house. There's so many things that a nice coat of paint, some nice updated fixtures can really do to make your house a home.
You know, and a really important step in buying your first home is working with an agent. And it kind of feels like there are so many.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're fed all of these on social media, like different agents promoting themselves. And even if you do a quick Google search, there are just so many. So how should a prospective buyer choose a real estate agent?
I always like to recommend getting a referral. Referrals are always the best. You know, if you have a family member who's bought a home before, or a cousin or a friend who has had a good experience with their agent, referrals are always best. Most of my clients come from referrals, people who had a great experience with me, and they said, I loved Monica. I know you're looking to buy or sell. Reach out to her. And also social media. You know, you can kind of cut through a lot of the noise sometimes by just seeing agents who are just sharing information online, not necessarily looking for business, but they just want to be helpful.
This is such an exciting move in life. And the excitement that you feel when you walk into a home and you feel like, ooh, this could be it, right? And your heart is in it.
Yeah.
Because you have to do that, right? You have to picture yourself in it and sort of get a little attached to even be able to make the next step to make an offer. But it's important to also not get too attached because you never know
Exactly.
what's behind the next closed door or what's in the foundation. So do you have a checklist for people that they can use to kind of stay focused and really consider if the property they're looking at is right for them?
Yeah. So, you know, every time I go and see a home with a client, I ask them a couple of questions. You know, what would you rate the home, scale of 1 to 10, and why would you rate it that? And when we go through the list of why they would or wouldn't, I ask them, is that something that you would consider a deal breaker? Is that something you could not live without? And after we review and we see that, oh my goodness, a home has Y and Z, but it doesn't have X, we're able to really make educated decisions. So I always tell my clients, if it's got at least 70%, we should put it in an offer. We got to really address what are you willing to do in terms of rehab or no rehab, or sometimes clients want to see a home 2 hours away from their job. But during the first meeting, we said, you don't want to drive further than an hour. So a lot of the times we can cut our losses and cut certain showings and certain emotional ties when you can just keep the blinders on for the clients.
Okay, this is the biggest part now, making the offer. It's a big deal.
It's a big, big deal. When it comes to writing offers, it's not as complex as a lot of social media can make it seem. So step one is really getting that pre-approval. So pre-approval is when you go to the bank, you submit your financials to a mortgage lender, and based off of your financials, they will tell you, hey, I'm going to lend you, Amanda, up to $500,000 based off of your income, your credit, your debts. You're going to hear the word DTI a lot as well, debt to income. So you get your pre-approval letter from the bank first. We see a home that you like. And from there, the next step is writing the offer, where we're going to outline what is the purchase price, what we're offering. We're going to outline how much money you're going to put at the contract signing. That's called your earnest money deposit. We're going to let them know when we plan to close. We're going to also let them know if we have any contingencies, which essentially means, is there anything that would cause you not to move forward with this purchase? And we also will let them know if there's any concessions we're looking for or any additional information that the seller should know before they select our offer. So we have a document that states all of those terms. We have a document attached to that as the pre-approval. We send that together in an email to the seller's agent. And now you have just submitted an offer.
That's very exciting. Thanks, Monica. Let's bring Stephen Vieira back. Before we go, on average, how long does it take to buy a home right now?
It's different for every person and how prepared they are. I find that in most cases, in a normal environment, you're looking at 60 to 90 days before you purchase a home. This environment is a little bit more difficult because, as we've seen post-COVID, the prices of housing and the limited availability of housing out there, we've seen people in the process for 6, 8, even 12 months at this point. But again, if you're working with a loan officer and you're understanding what you need to keep, your pay stubs, your W-2 forms, your bank statements, you're keeping these fresh and in the process with the loan officer, then you're going to find that it gets easier as you go along.
Keeping your paperwork up to date is important. That's good to know. So the last step of each episode is a short quiz we like to give our lucky guest. Today's is called, What Should We Do If? Are you ready?
I am ready.
What should you do if you find your dream home, but it's slightly above your budget? Should you A, stretch your budget and go for it? B, look for ways to negotiate the price or find alternative financing options? Or C, settle for a cheaper option?
Oh, boy, I guess that depends on your personality. This is one of the few situations where I would say A, stretch your budget and go a little bit higher, as long as you're not going too high. I've yet to find anybody that has bought a house and stretched a little bit further 10 years into the future that regretted that decision.
Just to be clear, Stephen's thoughts on budgeting are based on his own personal journey. It's not to be taken as financial advice. I think that one is definitely like a personality thing because I would not have said A.
Most people would be more conservative. And honestly, I'm a very conservative person myself. When it comes to investing, I'm very conservative. But when it comes to a home, I made that leap. With me and my wife made that leap. And we were very happy that we did that. Even though we struggled that first couple of years, it worked out in the end for us.
What should you do if, during the home inspection, significant issues are found? Should you A, ignore the problems and hope they won't be too costly in the future? B, negotiate with the seller for repairs or a lower price? Or C, walk away and search for a different property?
That's a great question. And sometimes it's B, sometimes it's C. Generally speaking, it's B. So if during a home inspection, we found that the foundation is deteriorating, well, that could be a deal killer altogether because a foundation is extremely important and expensive to replace. It could be more than the cost of the house itself. But generally speaking, we find that, if it's a roof, if it's a furnace, those things can be negotiated and can be worked on, and everyone will be happy in the end. Those bigger items, that's where you get into C, where maybe you want to run.
Okay, Stephen, last one. What should you do if you've found a home that meets all your criteria, but it's a seller's market with fierce competition? What's your strategy? A, offer above asking price to secure the property. B, make a compelling offer with personalized touches to stand out. Or C, wait for the market to cool down before making an offer.
Well, I would definitely say B. If you can personalize it, there are a lot of sellers that respond to that. A lot of people I've heard think of a letter to the seller as kind of a corny thing to do, but not in my mind. If you touch the seller's heart, they're going to bend over backwards to help you out.
And by a compelling letter, do you mean like explain that you want to raise your future family there and all the things that you dream about doing in the home, in the backyard? That's what you're talking about?
I know from experience. I sold my aunt's house. It's been almost 15 years ago now, and we had several offers on the table, and it was me and my 5 cousins that were selling my aunt's house. So to us, the difference in sale price was not that big a deal. It wouldn't have made a difference in my life or their lives, but we went with the one that had the letter, and we still keep in touch with that person today. They went to the school system that they wanted. They raised their family there, and it's just a nice thing to have that connection. So it works.
That's really special. I'm also very corny, so I would go with the letter writing myself as well. Thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise in this area, because the process of buying a home for the first time is a lot, and you want to make sure you have the right professionals around you to guide you. So thank you for walking us through the process.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
As with most big, or in this case, massive purchases, get your finances in order first and check your credit score. Find a lender and then find a realtor. Ask around. Get recommendations for people your friends and family have had good experiences with. Think about what's important to you and your family and stick to the plan. Don't let an impressive home suck you into a way too long commute or a lifetime of renovations that you do not want to do. Then be patient and enjoy the ride. I've got so much good information to pass on to my friend, but now that I think about it, I'm just going to share the link to this episode. You've been listening to Merging into Life, where we navigate life's milestones one episode at a time. Brought to you by AAA Northeast, with assistance from Jar Audio. I'm your host, Amanda Green. If you're learning as much as I am, follow us wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. We'd love to know what you think. Email us at podcast@AAANortheast.com. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the views of AAA Northeast, AAA, and/or its affiliates.